Okay, Hazy and T in the building. Fantasy football people, this one's for you. We got Marcas Grant, fantasy football analyst. Boom, let's go. You like what we're doing, you hit the subscribe button.
What up, everybody? It's your man, MG Marcas Grant from NFL Fantasy Live and the NFL Fantasy Football Show. Glad to hang out with Ryan on the I Only Touch Greatness podcast. Be great every day, everybody.
Ryan Hayes and Big Mike. I Only Touch Greatness podcast.
Hayes Entertainment exclusive.
This is I Only Touch Greatness podcast with Ryan Hayes and Big Mike. We are going live.
What's going on, man?
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for taking the time. I wasn't sure we were going to make this happen, and
no worries.
I had to make a quick run from the pool, so I'm soaking wet.
Is it warm up there?
Yeah, it's like 33 Celsius. I don't know what that would be Fahrenheit.
That's pretty warm. My basic math skills tell me that that's pretty warm.
Yeah, it's pretty good today, so we're trying to get as much sun as possible.
Yeah. Okay, so according to Google, that's 91 degrees. So yeah, it's pretty warm.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So it's cooking. I had to throw the shirt on so I could do the interview. Well, thanks for being on. I'm Ryan, by the way.
Hi, Marcus. Nice to meet you. I mean, I guess you know that, right? So.
I knew that. I've been watching you on TV for a while, so.
Cool. I appreciate that.
How you been holding up for COVID?
I mean, I guess at this point, it is what it is, right? I mean, we've been doing this for, 5 months now, more than 5 months. So we've just sort of gotten used to it now.
Yeah. Where did you grow up?
I'm a Northern California guy. I grew up in the city of Vallejo, which is about 35 miles from San Francisco, about 35 miles northeast of San Francisco.
Yeah, that's where E40's from.
Yep, exactly. Yep. We went to the same high school, not at the same time, but we did go to the same high school.
Oh, okay, that's cool. Yeah, I used to do hip hop music with them. I got those kind of people. A lot of West Coast artists we've interviewed a bunch too. So,
are you familiar with Mac Mall?
Yeah.
Okay, so he and I actually were in the same graduating class together. Okay.
See, I've chatted with him a few times, so I've been trying to get him. I've been trying to get him on the show a few times. We've done West Coast artists like Raz Kaz, J.O. Felony, TQ, Busy Bone.
Sweet.
Yeah. How did you get into fantasy football world?
It was sort of backwards. I never planned on doing this. I worked in sports radio for a while. I spent a couple of years doing minor league baseball play-by-play. Then I worked for some small AM talk radio stations up and down Central California. I was lucky to get a job doing some national sports radio with what was then Sporting News Radio. I think they've changed names 3 or 4 times. I have no idea what they call themselves now. But I did that for about a year, and then the owner sold the company, decided he wanted to move operations to Houston. I preferred to stay in LA, so I spent about a year semi-unemployed and freelance writing, what have you. And then I got, just a text or a call or whatever from a former coworker, and he had been working sort of part-time at the NFL for a while. And he suggested, he said, hey, look, you should just go apply for jobs. They're always looking for people, especially once the season hits. They need more people. You should just hit them up. So I went on NFL.com. I applied for, 4 or 5 jobs. Some of them I was not qualified for, but I'm like, hey, it beats what I'm doing right now. So a couple of months went by because the backdrop to this was in 2011, and this was during the NFL lockout, and they weren't sure if there was going to actually be a season that year. So, nothing happened for a while. And finally, I ended up getting a call from Michael Fabiano, who asked me if I wanted to apply and interview for a job writing about fantasy football. I had never thought about it as a career. I played it socially with friends, and that was kind of it. But, I was like, hey, does it pay? And he said, yeah. And I'm like, all right, sure. So went in, interviewed, basically read a week's worth of his columns the night before and sort of regurgitated his own information back to him. And then the day the lockout ended, I remember I woke up, turned on the TV, saw ESPN and they were reporting that the lockout was over. There was going to be a football season. Everything was going to be great. A couple hours after that, Fabs called me and offered me the job. And so here I am. I mean, I'm about to start my 10th season at the NFL. I never, ever would have imagined it.
Yeah, and Fabiano, man, he's the legend for real. Like, he's one of the big I even called my team name Fabiano. Like,
oh, wow.
Yeah, he was always my go-to guy, and watching you guys every day at Fantasy Live, and I would always come to you, especially on Tuesdays when I needed to get my waiver wires straight.
Right.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite team?
I mean, I grew up as a 49er fan.
Okay.
You know, it was easy because during my childhood is when they were really great. I mean, I grew up in the era of Montana and Jerry Rice, and then, you know, transitioning to Steve Young. And so like all those teams in the 80s into the, you know, early to mid 90s that were winning Super Bowls, that was my heyday. So it was easy to be a 49er fan. I will say that I have a soft spot in my heart for the Raiders. I remember being a really young kid when they left Oakland the first time. I might have been, you know, 3 or 4 years old, and I vaguely remember them being in Oakland the first time. Then obviously they come back to Oakland for a while before leaving again. So I wish the Raiders well. I like to see them win, but if I'm really rooting with my heart for one team, it's the 49ers.
And that's the same as me. I'm 37, so I grew up watching the 49ers my whole life, the Montana era, the Steve Young era. And then it wasn't until I started actually going to games where I became a Seahawks fan, because it's only a 2-hour drive from here. So and of course, division rivals, which is a horrible thing to say. But it started off as just going to Seahawks games just to see the 49ers each year. And then I got more games and then more games and more games. Now my friends are season ticket holders. So I guess Seahawks grew into my team, but I have a soft spot for the 49ers too.
I understand that. I mean, it makes sense. You when you live there, you see them all the time. It just sort of happens, I think, naturally a lot of times. Yeah,
that's for sure. Okay, do you have a favorite sports movie?
Sports movie, man. Yeah, I don't know. I don't. Does The Big Lebowski count since they bowl a lot? I'm not sure. That bowling is such a big part of what they do there. I mean, that it is just flat out one of my favorite movies in the first place. It's weird because I may be weird in the sense that I'm a guy who works in sports media, and I don't necessarily gravitate to sports movies because here's the weird thing for me. I watch them, and in my head, I'm always sort of critiquing the sports action, and I'm like, it doesn't look real. Like, it always sort of looks kind of weird, right, for somebody who watches sports a lot. And so because of that, I don't know that I have a ton of sports movies that I just watch over and over and over again. I think if anything, I like movies that maybe sort of incorporate sports but don't have that as the backdrop. So I guess I'm gonna sort of fudge the answer here and tell you that The Big Lebowski is because bowling is a big part of what they do.
Yeah. Okay. My favorite sports movie there, obviously Rudy. Mm-hmm. And then there was one back in the day called The Program.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. James Caan, I think. And
yeah.
USC. That was.
They were actually, it's funny. The Program was, I think, based on Florida State. And then there was Higher Learning that was a John Singleton movie. And that was based very much on USC. But I remember The Program because I think in the movie they called them Eastern State University. But I think it was based on Florida State.
It was the ESU Trojans.
Yeah, that's right. Was it Kane? Kane is able.
Yeah, that was it too. Yeah. Do you have a favorite sports athlete?
Favorite athlete? I think it depends on the sport, right? I remember as a kid, my favorite football player at first was always Marcus Allen for a couple of reasons. One, when I was a little kid, he was the first other person I ever heard of that was named Marcus. So that was sort of part of it. Then it turned out that he was actually really a good football player as well. For a long time, and I mean, you live sort of in the Seattle region, I guess. King Griffey Jr. has always been my favorite baseball player, at least for a really long time. I tried to emulate him when I played. I tried to model my batting stance after him. I was right-handed, but I was trying to kind of model my batting stance after him. I couldn't hit like him, which is why I have this job now instead of playing baseball. But King Griffey Jr. for a long time was my favorite baseball player.
And you had the old bat twirl.
I tried. Like I said, I mean, I did everything just like him, except hit the ball as well as him.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. I always like Griffey as well. Of course, being so close to Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
Fabiano, back to him. That was my next question. We jumped the gun on that a little bit, but is he as nice in person as he seems on TV?
Fabs is an interesting dude, right? I mean, he definitely loves this fantasy thing. He's kind of a super nerd. Loves Star Wars, loves loves his Yankees, loves the Cowboys. We always gave him a hard time, right? Because his favorite teams were the Yankees, the Cowboys, and the Lakers. And I used to always joke, I'm like, do you cheer for Starbucks? Do you cheer for Walmart? What have you? So we would give him kind of a hard time about that. So, he's just an interesting dude. He loves this thing, and now he's over at SI.com. So we certainly wish him well. I'm sure he will kill it over there. I mean, this is a dude who has a long time. I mean, I've been doing this for, like I said, this is my 10th season. Fabs has been doing this maybe twice as long as me, so I'm sure he will do a great job at SI.
How many leagues do you play in?
This year, well, the last few years, it's been around 11 or 12. I think it will probably be around 11 or 12 again this year. So, I always tell myself I'm going to cut down on the number of leagues that I'm in, but it ends up never really working out that way. So we'll see. I think when it's all said and done, I'll probably be in another 11 or 12 leagues this year.
Oh yeah, that's how it happened for me. I'm only in 5. So I only wanted to do 2 this year. And then it turned out somebody put one together and somebody put another one together and somebody put another one together. And then they're like, okay, I got to go.
Always how it happens.
Yeah. And people don't want to join my league unless I join their league.
It's always the hardship of doing this, right?
Yeah, that's for sure. Do you have a personal highlight to doing what you do?
Honestly, I think it was, just kind of getting this job was kind of amazing. I never expected it, and sort of being able to grow into this role. I think some of the small things. I remember being kind of ahead of the curve, or at least feeling like I was ahead of the curve on David Johnson the year he broke out, and being kind of an early adopter of Kareem Hunt the year he had his big rookie year there. But I think it's just some of the fun little goofy things we get to do on TV. I remember I was joking with Adam Rank once a few years ago. We had Kobe Jones, who was a former U.S. national soccer player, played in the MLS for a while, and he came on the show because he loved fantasy football. And so at the end of the show, we actually filmed it for the show. We had a big giant inflatable goalpost out in the back of the studio, and they let us line up and kick field goals. And so I stood there with professional soccer player Kobe Jones watching me, and I made it was basically like an extra point. But it was just kind of fun. It was just kind of fun to go out there and sort of do something even fake athletic like that on TV and not make a complete fool of yourself. So that was one of the funner things we've been able to do. All
right. Okay. Let's get into the fantasy talk here. Super Bowl prediction.
Oh, Super Bowl prediction this year. I am going to say, as much as I want the 49ers to get back, I think with all the injuries and stuff, I think it's going to be really tough for them to get back this year. I hate to say this. I think the Dallas Cowboys are going to be in the Super Bowl. As much as I am not a Cowboys fan, I think the Cowboys will be back, or will be there, I should say, and I think the Chiefs will be back. So I'm gonna say the Chiefs actually repeat, which has been really hard to do. I think they get by the Cowboys to do it.
Okay. I'm going to be putting bets down here after I got your inside scoop. Okay. Who do you think comes out of the AFC North?
Ooh, out of the AFC North, I'm going to say it may be the Steelers again. I think especially with Ben Roethlisberger back, and as long as Roethlisberger stays healthy, I think defensively they are still one of the best teams in the AFC right now. I think the Ravens are going to be great again this year, but I think people are going to sort of be looking out for Lamar Jackson, trying to keep him in the pocket as much as possible and make him be a little bit of a better passer. I do think that Ben Roethlisberger coming back is going to make a difference for this team. And I think he finds a way to kind of get them back to the top of the division.
I was watching Total Access yesterday. I think you were on there too. They were saying how his elbow is all healed. It's first time in a long time, and he hasn't had any elbow pain. So you watch out for him. They also got a good guy right from my neighborhood, Chase Claypool in the draft. And so I'm trying to watch out for him. You think he's fantasy worth picking?
I think he's a little bit. He's a couple years away, right? I mean, he's sort of that hybrid between a wide receiver and a tight end. I think he did some of both when he was at Notre Dame. But right now, I mean, they've got Juju Smith-Schuster who's going to get the ball. Obviously, Deontay Johnson's another guy who's going to get a whole lot of love right there. They still have to figure out how to get James Conner involved. They added Eric Ebron at the tight end spot, so they got a lot of guys they can get the football to. So I think for Claypool, it's going to be a year or two before we talk about him in fantasy.
Perfect. I'm putting a note beside my thing there. As you were saying, how you found people ahead of the curve. Mine was Odell. You guys told us you should stash Odell on your bench this year because he's coming out on his rookie year, and he was injured for the first half, and he showed up like week 8 or 9 or something, and then I grabbed him, and of course the one-handed catch.
Of course,
it portrayed me into the finals. So I'm a big Odell fan as well. Okay, coming out the NFC North.
NFC North, I think I'm going to go with the Vikings actually getting by the Packers in this one. The Packers didn't really add a lot to their offense. They go out and draft A.J. Dillon, but that wasn't an immediate need for them offensively. They needed wide receiver help, and they didn't get it. So I think for Aaron Rodgers, it's going to be another uphill slog for them. I think defensively they're okay, but we saw the 49ers gash them on the ground in the playoffs, so that's going to have to be a big hole for them to fill defensively this year. So I think the Vikings are sort of coming together. I know they got rid of Stephon Diggs, but I think Justin Jefferson can step in. I think B.C. Johnson offensively can be a nice piece for them with Dalvin Cook. As long as he can stay healthy and be productive, that defense is good enough. So I think the Vikings actually sort of overcome and they get by the Packers this year.
Hopefully Dalvin Cook doesn't decide to sit out.
Hopefully not. Right. I mean, right now it looks like he's going to be there, but we never know.
And you think Diggs will do okay over in Buffalo?
I think he'll be fine. I know everybody's worried about Josh Allen and his accuracy and whether or not he can get the ball downfield efficiently. I think they will figure out a way to get the ball in Stephon Diggs' hands, even if it's not on deep shots. If you just throw him the ball underneath and sort of let him work, he is great after the catch. So I think he'll figure out a way to be productive.
All right. Okay, next one, AFC South.
In the AFC South, I still think it belongs to the Houston Texans, but it will be close. It'll be a battle between they and the Tennessee Titans this year. I'm not super worried about about Deshaun Watson without DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, he will figure out a way to prevail. And really, the Texans will go as far as Deshaun Watson can carry them because, he's got guys to throw the football to, as long as they stay healthy, talking about Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks and Kenny Stills. They are not the greatest defense, but I think you're going to see them play a lot of – if you like offense, if you like games with high scores, watch the Texans this year because they will score a lot of points on offense. They will give up a lot of points on defense. So if you find that exciting, they're going to be a team for you to pay attention to.
Yep, so definitely don't be drafting their defense.
Do not. Right.
All right. NFC South.
In the NFC South, I still think it's the Saints. I still think they are the best team in the division. The Buccaneers will be better. I think the Falcons, they were 7-9 last year. I could see them, flipping that and being 9-7, maybe 8-8. I mean, that's certainly possible. But I still think the Saints are the most complete team in that division. And look, this very well might be the last go around for Drew Brees. So I see them really charging hard to try to get to the Super Bowl this year. They have a chance to. I know I said the Cowboys could get there, but I think the Saints very, very realistically have a chance to get to the Super Bowl this season. And so I think they are still going to be the best team in the NFC South.
Okay, next one, AFC East.
The AFC East, this is interesting. I think for the first time in a long time, we have a challenger to the Patriots' throne. I think the Buffalo Bills are the best team in that division. And I know I just talked about Josh Allen and hoping he sort of progresses as a quarterback, but I still think he's going to be good enough to kind of keep them in ball games. That defense is another good defense. And the Patriots, after being on top for 20 years, literally, I think it's going to be a new beginning for them. I like Cam Newton this year. I think he'll be productive, but I don't know that this offense has enough to win a lot of close games. They're going to have to rely on their defense a lot this season. And so I think that the Bills will sort of end the reign of terror of the New England Patriots in 2020.
All right, perfect. As a Seahawks fan, I can't stand the Pats, so
most of America feels that way.
Yeah, good. I'm glad everybody else does. Glad everybody else feels how I feel. Let's go NFC East.
In the NFC East, I think it's going to be the Cowboys. Like I said, I think they go to the Super Bowl this year. I think they are the best team. Defensively, they are getting better. Offensively, they're scary with everything they've got. I mean, they draft CeeDee Lamb to go along with Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup. Dak Prescott is looking great. They still have Ezekiel Elliott. And so defensively, I think they're starting to come around a little bit. The Eagles sort of limped to the division title last year. It seemed like nobody wanted to win that division. This year, I think the Cowboys take it, and I think they may end up winning it by a couple games.
Okay. And I'm a big Alabama guy, so I like that CeeDee Lamb.
All right.
Yep, I don't know why I like Alabama. I just know over the years they're a winning franchise, and Nick Saban.
He's been great. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Last one we got AFC West.
In the AFC, it's still the Chiefs. They're easily the best team in that division. You know, they got to the Super. They won the Super Bowl. They're top to bottom the most complete team there. I think behind them though, it gets interesting because I think the Broncos, the Raiders, the Chargers, all have some good points. They all have some flaws to them. But I do think that I do think the Chiefs are far and away the best team in that division.
Yeah, I mean, the Broncos did a lot at the draft to really improve themselves, but like you say, the Chiefs are in a whole nother world. Okay, and now my division here, we got the NFC West.
Well, as much as it pains me to say this, I think the Seahawks are going to win this division. They very well could have won the division last year, right? I mean, they got within just a couple of yards of beating the 49ers late in the season that would have won the division for them. And I think for San Francisco, they're dealing with a whole lot of injuries right now. And just last year, I think they sort of snuck up on some people, right? Like no one was expecting them to be 13-3. And I think they snuck up on a lot of people. This year, the schedule gets a little bit tougher. There are more people that are sort of checking for them this year. I think they will maybe get into the playoffs as a wild card team. But I think the Seahawks are going to end up winning the NFC West.
Perfect. I got a big bet on that one. So, yeah, I was at the 49ers game actually last year when the Seahawks lost.
Mm-hmm. It was a great game. It was a lot of fun to watch. But, the Seahawks very well could have won that game. They could have won the division.
Okay. Now for whom I'm taking in my draft. Top rookie running back.
The top rookie running back is going to be Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And there's some good options there this year, right? I like Jonathan Taylor. I think DeAndre Swift's going to get some love this year. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a dynamic guy who can do a little bit of everything, and you put him in the NFL's best offense in Kansas City. He is the guy that right now, I mean, he's going in fantasy drafts in the top 5 or 6 players overall, and I think by far he's going to be your best rookie runner.
I'm hoping he drops to me at 7, so –
possible, but don't be surprised if he doesn't.
Yeah, that's for sure. Is there going to be a top rookie wide receiver? I mean, Metcalf was awesome last year for me.
He was. I had early on this summer been saying that I think it's going to be Justin Jefferson, and I think Jefferson will be fine there in Minnesota, but right now the stars seem to be aligning for Jalen Reagor in Philadelphia just because you never know how healthy the Eagles wide receivers are going to be. We've seen Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson have their injury issues over the last few years, and so it has been sort of tough to try and keep all those guys on the field. So that I think is going to make it really tough for or actually that should make it easier, I should say, for Jalen Reagor to get on the field and get those targets. I do think Justin Jefferson has some nice potential there in Minnesota, especially if the Vikings go to more 3 wide receiver sets. But as long as they stay with 2 wideouts, I think you're going to see Adam Thielen and BC Johnson. So I am leaning more and more toward Jalen Reagor as we get closer to the season.
All righty. And top rookie quarterbacks. I know we're not going to be probably drafting no rookie quarterbacks in our fantasy football teams, but who do you think is going to be there?
Oh, the top rookie quarterback is easily going to be Joe Burrow because he's going to be the guy that starts from day one. I think everybody else we're talking about is they're going to have a wait, right? Like Tua Tagovailoa, he's not going to start right away. He's still sort of working his way back from that hip injury. Justin Herbert is probably going to be on the bench for the Chargers to start the season. I do think Herbert will probably start at some point before the year is out, but it won't be at the very beginning of the season. So Joe Burrow is easily the number 1 rookie quarterback. He will be the Bengals starter in week 1, and he will by far have the best numbers.
Nobody's going to draft him, though, right? You're not reaching out for him. Would you maybe handcuff?
I think if you are in the market for a second quarterback, if you play in a 2 QB league or a super flex league, I think you think about Joe Burrow. If you're in just a traditional 1 quarterback league, you're probably only drafting him as kind of an insurance policy late. But yeah, he won't be drafted in a ton of fantasy leagues, I don't think, this year.
Yeah, that's good. And like you said, Herbert, I seen him play for Oregon State. Mm-hmm. And they were up playing Washington on one of the Seahawks games. Is that okay? Which guy's getting too much hype?
Ooh, I mean that's a long list, but I'm going to go with I'm going to pick Amari Cooper here, and not because I think Amari Cooper is bad. He week to week isn't as consistent as I would like him to be. Just because, look, I love those games when he gives you 200 yards and a couple of touchdowns. The problem is he's likely to follow that up with like 1 catch for 15 yards, and that's going to kill you the very following week. I think where he's going as a top 10 or 15 wide receiver, I want more consistency there. So instead of drafting Amari Cooper, I tend to have waited a few rounds later, and I'll get Michael Gallup off that same team, who will give you, I think, the same kind of production overall, but week to week, I think is a little bit more consistent. So Amari Cooper's a guy that I've sort of avoided in a lot of drafts. Yeah,
I'm definitely staying away from Cooper. I'd always go for Metcalf right at that point. I'm surprised Metcalf is going later than Lockett. I mean,
it sort of depends. Like I've seen drafts where Metcalf has gone first. I've seen him where he's gone, just behind Lockett. But I do think most people sort of value them about the same. And whether or not which one you take first is kind of a coin flip. I have drafts where I've taken Lockett. I have drafts where I've taken Metcalf, and I'm perfectly fine with either one of those guys.
Perfect. Is there anybody on your do not draft list?
Like I said, Amari Cooper has been up there at this point. I've also kind of stayed away from Leonard Fournette, partially because it seems like the Jaguars don't like Leonard Fournette. So how can I get excited about Leonard Fournette? They seem to want to trade him or release him or just not give him the ball nearly as much. They signed Chris Thompson as a free agent. They drafted Laviska Shenault. So those are guys that are going to catch the football, which is something that Fournette did a lot of last year. So that number may come down in terms of total catches. He hasn't been a big touchdown scorer aside from his rookie season. So he's going to have to find ways to contribute in other areas. And I'm just not sure he can do it well enough to justify spending, say, a mid-third round or a late third round pick on him.
Yeah, that's for sure. I've usually stayed away from him, but I mean, he's a hell of a talent. He's just on a shitty team.
Yeah, just in a bad situation is all it is.
Yeah. Okay, I got 5 more. You got time?
Sure.
Okay. Your IDP, who would you take? If we only have one in our league, but who would you go chasing after?
Yeah, I think your IDPs. I mean, look, I think Aaron Donald is a guy that's hard to stay away from, just because look, he does so much, and you want to talk about a guy who's maybe the best all-around defensive player in the league. I think he's one that you certainly want to keep an eye on. I think when you talk about IDPs, though, you always are looking at guys who make a lot of tackles, right? You're looking at sort of linebackers. Blake Martinez is a guy to keep an eye on there in Green Bay, because he has been kind of a tackling machine over the last few years. Fred Warner in San Francisco, another guy that's going to have a lot of value, because look, middle linebackers generally tend to be the guys that do the most damage and are the most productive when it comes to IDP players. So keep an eye on that position. But look, if you want a big name, Aaron Donald is one that's hard to stay away from.
And there's Leonard too, right? The Indianapolis Colts.
Oh yeah, Darius Leonard. Darius Leonard's another guy who's legit, no doubt.
Okay, good. That's who I've been trying to take every year. I always draft them way too early. I go get my players that I want way out of picks. But hey, I'm trying to build the team that I want.
No doubt.
Okay, players to reach for.
One of the guys I've been reaching for has been Robert Woods. With the Rams, I think last year people love Cooper Kupp, and I understand that, and I think that's great. But let's keep in mind that Robert Woods put up nearly similar numbers to Cooper Kupp, in terms of receptions and yards and that sort of thing. The difference was touchdowns. I think that gap closes a little bit in terms of touchdowns this year. Plus, with Brandon Cooks not there, I think the Rams will lean a little bit heavier on Woods and Kupp to begin the season. I think, with Kupp coming off the board, say in the second round, Woods is available a couple rounds later in round 4 or 5. I wouldn't mind reaching a little bit early to get a guy that I think is going to be very productive and making him. So a lot of times, Robert Woods ends up as my second receiver, and I think he's a guy that has some wide receiver 1 upside. So I have been willing to take the shot on him early.
All right. I like the sounds of that, except for I'm not a big Rams fan. The sleepers, could you give me two?
A couple of sleepers for you. Let's see. I am going to go with, where am I going with this one? I think at the wide receiver spot, I talked about Michael Gallup a little bit. I think he is a guy to keep an eye on just because I think he's really going to explode. Calvin Ridley is another one down there in Atlanta, and we sort of have seen Calvin Ridley kind of start to come on. I think he can take a big step forward this year, and that's even with Julio Jones still in the offense. I think that Ridley is still going to see the ball a lot. He has found a way to get in the end zone quite a bit early in his career, so I think he's going to be super productive this year. I don't know if Jonathan Taylor counts as a sleeper, but the rookie there in Indianapolis, I think he's going to kind of take that job away from Marlon Mack and kind of push him to the background a little bit. So he's kind of coming off the board in like the 5th or 6th round in a lot of drafts, and I think he has the potential to be probably not a top 12 running back, but I think top 15 certainly is in the range of outcomes for Jonathan Taylor, and I think where you're getting him at, he might end up being a value when it's all said and done. Perfect.
Got room for him on my bench. Okay, breakout years. Like, who's ready to have one? That's maybe a second year.
Yeah, I mentioned Calvin Ridley. He's a guy who I think is going to have a breakout year. I'm looking at the tight end position. I think Hayden Hurst is ready for a big year. He had been kind of buried in Baltimore over the last few years, especially with Mark Andrews having a big year last year. But now Hurst gets out of Baltimore. He goes to Atlanta. He takes over for Austin Hooper after Hooper went to Cleveland. And like I said, with Calvin Ridley, there are a lot of targets to go around in that Falcons offense. And I do think that you're going to see Hayden Hurst get his opportunities. And I think that, he's a guy. I've seen his ADP climbing quite a bit in the last few weeks. So now suddenly he's up to the 7th or 8th round, where before he had been a 9th or 10th round guy. But I do think when it's all said and done, he'll end up being a top 10 fantasy tight end, and you probably won't feel so bad about spending that draft pick.
Yeah, that's the thing. Tight ends, if you don't get the top 2, you're kind of fucked.
Generally, I mean, look, I've been willing to go and get George Kittle early. And like my thing has been, look, either you get Kittle early, Kittle or Kelsey early, or you wait sort of till the end. And there are guys like Blake Jarwin, Jonnu Smith that you can kind of take a flyer on, and I think will be productive for you. But look, I understand that desire to just know you have solid production week to week and just going to get one of those elite guys early on.
That's what I like to do too. I always go running back, tight end, running back, and then I leave, hopefully scoop up Metcalf on round 4. Okay, I got you answered the Chase Pool question earlier. What about the Seattle Seahawks backfield? This one hits a little close to home for me, but
yeah, look, I still like Chris Carson, especially where he's coming off the board in the 4th round. I think we know he is going to be the guy. He's going to be a solid producer. The only thing that does worry me a little bit is now that Carlos Hyde is there, how much he sort of cuts into that. I feel like Rashad Penny might end up being the odd man out in that offense this year. But for what Chris Carson is expected to do and what he did last year, I'm fine with him as my second running back. And like I said, the 4th round seems like a pretty fair price to pay for him.
Yeah, I see Penny on his way out. He just doesn't get enough chances. But I find Seahawks running backs, though, they get beat up pretty bad because you're running the ball so much. So you need 3 of them at least.
Yeah, I think that's why we've seen so many guys kind of rotate through there, because Pete Carroll wants to run the football a lot.
Yeah, you end up with Lynch again. Okay, and in your leagues, you play with kick return yards? I have a buddy that says, oh, you can't have leagues with kick return yards.
I've played in both. I've played in some that do where the individual player gets kick return yards, and some where it's just kind of a team thing. So I don't know that I have a preference one way or another. I think it just sort of changes the way you draft a little bit. I think it does make a guy, for instance, like Tyreek Hill a little bit more valuable, because he's a guy who picks up a lot of those kick return yards. We know how great he is as a receiver. Then you throw in the fact that if he can get those kick return yards, suddenly that boosts him up into maybe being a top 2 or 3 wide receiver off the board.
Yeah, it reminds me of like Jacoby Jones back in the day, or Cordell Patterson. He was always,
or even Deshaun Jackson was one of those guys for a long time too. Yeah,
that's for sure. Well, I'm out of questions. I want to thank you for taking the time and giving me your day to do a quick interview for me.
Hey, no, I appreciate it, man. It was good to talk to you. What up, everybody? It's your man, MG Marcas Grant from NFL Fantasy Live and the NFL Fantasy Football Show. Glad to hang out with Ryan on the I Only Touch Greatness podcast. Be great every day, everybody. See you.
Hey, thank you, Marcus.
Cool. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, be safe. I'll let you know once it's all ready to go.
Sounds good, man.
Hey, perfect. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.